I'm Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Today, we're talking with Mykel Gayent, a phenomenal advocate and Brother Be Well content contributor. Mykel is sharing details of his tumultuous journey through trauma and addiction to recovery and ultimately to service to the community. Mykel, how's it going?
It's going well, thank you.
Really good to have you here. Appreciate you taking time to talk with us.
Well, it's an honor for me to be here.
Let's get right into your story, Mykel, and it's a compelling story. Starting out, I understand you never knew your biological father and your biological mother relinquished parental rights when you were just a toddler. You wound up being taken in by a couple. What were those first 10 or so years like with your adoptive parents?
Well, we all grew up with, to think about the American dream. And, I grew up with the first 10 years in what I thought was a middle-class life, an old middle-class life. I had great parents. My mom, she loved me unconditionally. And I mean, I was her whole life. And she would tell me this every day. She affirmed me every morning before I go off to school. She made sure I had everything I needed. If I left my lunch, she'd go to the local hamburger stand and bring me burgers and fries for lunch. Of course, I had to fight off all my friends. My dad, he would take me fishing. We get up early in the morning, we go fishing, stay out all day. I remember the first time I caught my first fish, it was a flounder. We go to baseball games, and one of my favorite memories was going to Kezar Stadium in San Francisco to watch the 49ers practice. And we did that for a few years. Along with that memory was the memory of meeting John Brody, Hall of Fame quarterback for the 49ers.
Talk about that. You read my mind a little bit. I was going to ask you, you're still a 49ers fan, so that must have really had an impact on you getting to see those guys play and go to those early 49ers games.
Oh, it was, but when my life took a turn, and of course we're going to talk about this later, but when my life took a turn, I kind of drifted away from sports for a while. But when I was in Germany and I came back, and I think the year was like 1985, and I got to see the 49ers go for a Super Bowl try, and it was the first game I had been to in years. And from that time on, I've been a longtime fan ever since.
Wow. Yeah. So your mom and dad had absolutely been vital parts of your life, and then literally one day everything changed for you. Your mom died when you were in the 7th grade, I think. She died of heat stroke. I'm wondering how old she was at the time. Did she have any prior health problems? And then I want to know, Mykel, if you can share what effect that had on you. Losing your mother is something I've not experienced yet, and my heart went out when I read that. Can you talk about the impact that had on you?
Well, the big impact for me was that morning that she contracted the heat stroke, or suffered the heat stroke. I was on my way to school. I was just about to cross the threshold out onto the porch, and something stopped me. And I turned around and I told my mom, I said, "I know you're going to work in the garden today." I said, "It's going to be real hot. Be careful." And I don't know why I said that, but I just felt it was necessary to say. She kissed me and said, "I'll be fine." And I went to school. And later that afternoon, the lady who was in charge of our local carpool, we didn't call it that at the time, but she came to the school, picked me up, and took me to the hospital. And she wouldn't say very much while we were going. And that's when I found out that my mother, in fact, did have a heat stroke while she was tending her garden. She passed out. She was able to wake up and actually crawl her way into the house where she can grab the phone and call her best friend, who came down and then called the ambulance and got her there. For some reason, though, my mom had been preparing me for this, for her departure. And I didn't understand why, because at the time I was only 12. But when she passed, I didn't feel like I lost her. I mean, she was gone, but even today, I feel like she's still here.
Mm,
Like I tell people, I talk to God. I talk to my mom too. You know,
mm,
um, I know that if she was living, all the things that I went through, in my life's travels, I would have taken different directions. I don't know where I'd be today, but if she was around, I'm sure I'd be on a different pathway.
mm,
But because of her, when it was time for me to go into recovery, I mean, the thoughts of her also helped me stay strong. I've been a strong person, pretty much from the time of her death on.
mm. I was gonna say, first of all, even all those years later, Michael, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank
And I
you.
also want to say that, yeah, you'd be on a different path, but you might not be on a path that is now positioning you to help somebody else. You wouldn't have that story to tell. So maybe none of us knows why stuff like that happens, but maybe that's got a little something to do with
Well, I still believe that that the things that are happening or God's will.
it. Hmm.
I'm where I'm at because of where He wants me to be,
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
I had to live, a hard life in order to be able to relate to others and help others.
Wow, wow. Your mom passed away, and you immediately the father that you had gone to games with and hung out with and done some things with, you saw a change in his behavior. I want you to talk about you quoted, you said your story that you don't think he ever gave 2 cents about you. Um, I want you to talk about him just a little bit, and you've got a really powerful story, I think, for anyone who's ever gotten ready for school or gone back to school or taken kids to go get school clothes. You got a story that just really shook me. And if you'd be open to it, I'd like you to talk about your dad and some of the things you had to deal with before we, get on to the recovery part. If you could share some of that.
Right. Well, I mean, it's just like I said. It was an immediate 180 in his demeanor and his attitude toward me. Um, I remember my mother had told me about money that she had been saving, and she told me where to go find it. If something ever happened to her, and when it did, I remember a few days later, I remember that she had told me that night, and I thought about it, and I said, well, okay. I went and found the money, and counted it out. It was a nice, it was a nice piece of change. Even though she told me to keep it, I still thought I had the duty of being a good son,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking, well, my father would need this, the funeral costs and this, that, and the other. So I gave it to him, and I thought, well, I actually thought that maybe he was going to give some back.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. He just put it in his pocket. He didn't count. He just put it in his pocket and didn't say thank you or anything. And next thing I know, that's when things that started changing. Of course, I didn't have any money, so immediately I needed some things that my mother would have made sure that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Lunch money, any school activity coming up. There was always money for that. Money for clothes. Um, when I start asking for these things from my dad, it was there was always an excuse, always a reason why I couldn't go to school activities anymore with my friends. When they go, I had to I had to go sit in a special class with all the other kids who couldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, Clothes, when this happened toward the end of school year. So when it was time for me to go, go to the next grade, while all my friends they were going out shopping, getting new clothes. I was never going, so I just figured maybe in the last couple of days or so, he was just going to take me out and just go get a whole year's worth of clothes like my mother would do, and that didn't happen. And I asked him about it. He said, you got a room for the clothes. You can wear those. So that's when I started learning how to iron real well,
Mm-hmm.
because I needed to make sure that I at least tried to make it look like I had some new clothes.
Yeah.
But of
Yeah.
course, your friends, your kids, their hearts, they knew. And they start ragging on me about my clothes. Yeah, you know you're wearing the same clothes from last year, this, that, and the other. And these kind of things started eating at me,
Sure.
and he would go off for a while. And I found out, I had found out prior to my mother passing that he had another family, actually.
Mm.
It wasn't his family, it was her family. And he would do things with them that he wouldn't do with me, so there'd be times on weekends I'd be at home alone. He'd be taking them to Tijuana or Disneyland and things like that. I never really understood it. I mean, because it wasn't like I ever did anything to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wasn't a priority to him at all.
Well, Mykel, I appreciate you being so willing to share that story. We're going to go a little bit deeper in our next episode with you, if you don't mind, because as
No.
dark as those times might have been, things got even a little bit darker for you. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I want to thank you right now for your time today. Mykel Gayent, content contributor for Brother Be Well. And if you've heard anything that has intrigued you, or you'd like more information on the Brother Be Well platform, or you'd like to subscribe to our magazine, go to mentalhealthca.org. Again, Mykel Gayent, content contributor. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And my name is Michael P. Coleman. I'm content director for Brother Be Well. Inviting you till we see you next time. You take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Bye-bye.